heart. She left me here with this guitar. You could try stealing my heart, it's already gone. You could tell something is wrong, just leave me alone. I don't even know where to start.
Yo, it is your boy Brevking Productions, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're gonna be watching, I think it's like 8 movies where the villain pretty much wins, where no one survives. Yeah, no one survives. My fault. Yeah, my fault. But yeah, let's get straight to it. No, 6.
Not
Damn.
every film can have a Ripley or an Ash, unfortunately. Every now and then, horror movies show the proverbial middle finger to those that have come before and decide that no one lives this time. That everyone is destined for the chopping block, no matter how hard they try to avoid their grisly fate. It's only fair, really, considering how grim horror movies can be, that no one makes it out alive. Sometimes, dead really is better. Whether it's everyone we see on screen biting the dust, our close-knit cast of protagonists, or even the world at large, death dealing is part and parcel of these movies that leave no one left to carry the torch. R.I.P. guys, R.I.P. I am the Grim Reaper, Ash from What Culture Horror, and these are 6 horror movies where everyone dies. Oh, and let us know what you think of this shorter list format in the comments at the end, too. 6. Cabin Fever. Cabin Fever is a darkly comic homage to the low-budget horrors and gory bonanzas that came before it. You know when watching a film by Hostel's Eli Roth that things are going to get bloody, and get bloody fast. The film follows a group of teens escaping the stresses of college life by spending spring break in a remote cabin in the woods. I mean, who needs beaches when you can have desolate woodland cabins instead, right? As they enjoy their holiday of debauchery, an infectious disease and a tainted water supply eventually works its way into the group. One by one, each of them succumbs to a nasty case of skin dropping off itis. By the finale, only Jeff remains, who had hidden and drank off screen for a solid portion of the movie. Perhaps one of those few final deaths that audiences find satisfying, an initially devastated but now celebratory Jeff is dispatched by the corrupt sheriff. Meanwhile, the townsfolk begin to sell lemonade and a truck filled with tainted water drives away. So, even whilst it's just our cabin full of grotty holidaymakers that die on screen, it is everyone else that will be biting it soon enough as the credits roll. 5. The Final Destination series. Yes, we're going to go full series here, since there's a couple of films in the canon that let survivors walk away from their films, only to give them a paltry off-screen death instantly in the next. By the close of Final Destination 5, however, everyone involved is well and truly brown bread. All the Final Destination movies follow exactly the same 3-step plot. Protagonist has vision, vision saves people, and death is pissed that it hasn't got its daily dose of souls. Where the variety and watchability comes through is in the ridiculous deadly set pieces. In the final 3 movies, for example, the disasters are a gnarly roller coaster crash, an insane NASCAR pileup, and a terrifying bridge collapse. Meanwhile, each film's survivors are saved by the clairvoyance of Wendy, Nick, and Sam respectively. In extremely entertaining fashion, one by one the survivors are killed by, natural accidents, heavy emphasis on the natural part here, such as car crashes, botched eye surgery, and sunbeds gone rogue. However, the cherry on top of this ridiculously extravagant death cake is that when each group of survivors think they've outplayed death, they are proved very wrong. 4. Quarantine. So here's the thing for this entry. Quarantine and its Spanish predecessor Rec are essentially the same film in 2 different languages, and Rec does not kill off its main players as we find out in Rec 2. However, Quarantine's sequel tells nothing of the fate of Angela, instead letting her encounter at the end of the first movie serve as her final moment. Both are harrowing found footage films that get progressively more chilling, but for this list, Quarantine has advantage of leaving no survivors. Both films follow a camera crew as they report at a firefighting station, with the group soon called out to an emergency in an apartment building and then are locked inside before they can complete their job. Eventually, they learn the reason why. Their building is ravaged with mysteriously infected residents who violently attack anything in their path. One by one, the fighters, crew, and remaining residents are taken out, all whilst Angela and her cameraman film in shocked horror. Eventually, they are cornered in the penthouse building by a spine-tingling creature that butchers the cameraman and, in the film's final shot, drags a sobbing Angela to her demise. No getting out of your death in this version, Angie. 3. The Blair Witch Project. For those now just experiencing the horror genre, understanding how innovative and ingenious the Blair Witch Project was at the turn of the century is a rite of passage. Whilst horror was largely going down a campy, self-aware route, Blair Witch offered fans the found footage genre where the experience felt real, and terror and paranoia were at the top of the agenda. This frightening flick follows three friends, Heather, Josh and Mike, hiking through a creepy forest on the hunt for local legend, the titular Blair Witch. Though it starts out innocently enough, soon things go bump in the night, and the crew lose all sight of their bearing. Josh is suddenly lost, with only his shirt, teeth and tongue discoverable in the aftermath. Whittled down to just a pair, what sound like Josh's screams lead Heather and Mike to an abandoned house, and they are both swiftly attacked off camera before credits roll. Some might argue that we can't be certain of these characters' fates, but considering Rustin Parr, a serial killer allegedly under the influence of the witch, whose house they find themselves in, murdered boys whilst one faced the corner and then subsequently killed the other afterward, it is pretty clear what happens when the footage stops. 2. Dawn of the Dead. Imagining Zack Snyder watching the original Dawn of the Dead, you can just hear him saying, "It's good, but I wish it was more badass." So, in 2004, we were delivered his own take on an action-packed zombie extravaganza by the same name. The story mainly follows Anna, who goes from timid nurse to final girl material in record time. Snyder shows he is pulling no punches by getting serious straight away, killing a small child, before getting his core group together in a shopping mall to try and strategize against the horde outside. Eventually, after realizing they can't stay there, the survivors turn buses into deathmobiles and head out to the docks to sail their escape boat into the sunset. Only, things don't go as planned. After plenty of chainsawing, explosions, and secret infectious bites, we are left with just a small pocket of survivors that make it to their watery freedom. All's well that ends well, right? Well... This does not end well. As the credits roll, a found footage continuation plays out showing the survivors pulling up to an island. An island that turns out to be crawling with zombies. At least they tried. 1. The Cabin in the Woods. On paper, The Cabin in the Woods sounds like another typical slasher/supernatural spookfest that pales in comparison to the likes of Evil Dead and Friday the 13th. But in execution, it is so much more than your average copycat. As expected, the story follows a group who rent a cabin in the woods and discover several cursed artifacts in the basement. There by design rather than coincidence, it is revealed that the cabin is controlled by a government agency tasked with playing out a real-life horror movie in all of its trope-laden, cliched glory, and they will execute their plan with deadly efficiency. What these suits don't count on, however, is their victims discovering the secret base where they've been manipulating the getaway, with Dana and Marty unleashing every monstrous horror movie trope encaged in the facility to fight back against their fate. The end of the film reveals that, to save humanity, Dana must kill Marty. Dana, instead, decides to share a blunt with Marty. And so, the facility's attempts to appease ancient gods living under the earth with their cabin sacrifice is foiled, and everyone on the planet will die as a result. In for a penny, in for a pound.
Okay.
And
that's gonna be the end of the video, y'all. It was alright. I mean, it wasn't really interesting because I was like, you know. But hope y'all have a blessed day. It's Brevking Productions.